Good morning, everybody.
Morning, morning.
Ek is nou weer terug deur die week. Dankie nie. Ek het gewees om my pa te help met iets op die bank. So ek is nou terug.
Hallo Emmy.
Daar vries hy.
Ek sien so, dis
Good morning, everybody. This is LabCo's webinar, and we will be doing business rescue and other measures, how to survive economically in these trying times. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Julian. My name is Lodewijk, and he'll be discussing business rescue and giving us a bit of insight into that. I'm going to just introduce myself. So the theme for today is how to strategies to survive 2020 economically. I think we all wish 2020 to be a thing of the past, but it's with us and it's going to remain with us. So what we have done as an employers organization is the government did introduce the Temporary Employers Relief Scheme, commonly known as TERS. They've stopped it and started it, but it's on again, and we've been very successful on behalf of our clients, and we've done 7.5 million in April, 2 in May, 4 in June, July and August, big bottleneck with all the dismissals going on there, but we're expecting that to be a bumper harvest in regards to TERS claims. The idea, of course, there is that employers can get money back from UIF to pay their employees while they are shut down. One of the things that are cropping up would be wage negotiations. Absolutely mind-boggling that unions are starting wage negotiations in a year like this, but it does happen. So what happens now? If you do plant level negotiations, that means negotiations with your employees directly. What strategies are you going to implement to convince the unions and or your members and employees to stand over the wage negotiations, perhaps until next year? That would be the first strategy, but you need to formalize that and get it done. Then if you're part of a bargaining council, the bargaining council for metal engineering or for motor engineering, and even for the contracts and civils side, if you are tied into wage negotiations and you have to give increases, what are you going to do with those? The answer to that would be to ask for exemption so that you can stand over and survive. That does bring us to the exemption application. Exemptions for prescribed, that is, if you're part of a bargaining council, you need to do those exemption applications now. It takes them a few months to get everything done as the councils to review your application. So you can't in November wake up and say, I will not have money for December to pay the prescribed bonuses, the prescribed contributions to the Provident Fund. It does take about 3 months for them to get through your application. So please, as your representative, give us instructions where we should apply for exemptions. The only exemption that is not possible is an exemption from the national minimum wage. So you can't get around that. You've got to pay that amount. I'm just quickly going to mute everybody. Thank you. I'm going to return to the screen. That does bring us to Julian, and I've known Julian, a man of impeccable character, and part of what he does that we do not do is, of course, business rescue. So where we come in is we do the retrenchments, we sort out your labor, but we do not sort out the rest of your creditors. So Julian, that would be your part, and we're really looking forward to what you've got to tell us. So without further ado, Julian, you'll just tell me when I need to move the slides along. Please take it away.
Thank you, Ludovic. Morning all. My name is Julian Empedocles. I'm a business rescue practitioner and a liquidator from Almas Consulting. And just a bit of background from myself. I studied accounting and did my 3 years articles at Stellenbosch and went into corporate. After 6 years in corporate, I had the opportunity to get involved with business rescues. So then I started business rescues and liquidation. So I have more of an accounting point of view and an accounting side to business rescues than the legal side, which gives me an edge on business rescues and knowing the financial figures and seeing where the business is in distress from a financial point of view. So business rescue is a good alternative to liquidations and can be very, very profitable for a company. There is abuse of business rescue, but there you get the good advice of a practitioner, business rescue and a liquidator to see where you can really profitable the most, even if it's liquidation. So Ludovic, you can go on for me, please. So what is business rescue? Business rescue is where a company gets placed into the hands of a business rescue practitioner because it's financially distressed. It's just an objective point of view where another person like myself comes in with the directors or the members of the company, shareholders also, and it's temporary in the hands of the business rescue practitioner. In that time that it's in business rescue, there's also a moratorium placed over the company. So in short, what that means is that no legal action can be brought against the company without the business rescue practitioner's consent to that legal action. So, and the most important part of a business rescue is development and the implementation of a plan. There, the business rescue practitioner works with the director, the managing partners, shareholders, and all involved parties, as well as the creditors, into building a plan and making sure that the business will be rescued at the end of the day. Now, the implementation of the plan, the law says it needs to be done within 3 months of the business going into business rescue. But in more reality, a business rescue can take anything from 6 months up to a year and a half. Thank you, Ludovic. So as you can see there, business rescue is there to help a company with the fires that's coming forward. The fires representing your creditors starting to get aggressive, your creditors want to liquidate the company, or they are just plain not reasonable in negotiating on ongoing terms and going forward. So there's a good example of going into business rescue, once again placing the company in a moratorium and therefore assisting the company and fighting against those fires from the outside. Thank you, Ludovic. So the aim of business rescue, according to the law, there is you restructure the company's affairs into either going to a solvent state again or for a better return in creditors. Now, a lot of business rescues go for the result in a better return for your creditors. As you know, liquidation can take anything up between 2 and 5 years, especially with COVID and the masters team behind in such a way. So the creditors, they go for business rescue, they can have their money within 3 to 6 months, so that they don't have to go the liquidation route that can take up to 2 to 5 years for their money. Now, in most companies, it is to help them get to a solvent state again, in that saying that they're not going into liquidation, and that they can save their business. A lot of businesses, they've been here for 50, 60 years, and due to unforeseen circumstances, there's troubles and they can't go any further on a solvent state again. So other advantages of business rescue is also saving jobs, and that was also one of the main purposes of business rescue from government side. As I mentioned, payback of creditors, faster payment of your creditors, they can actually receive more in certain circumstances than in liquidation, and the your ultimate goal is then to save the business, which is in a lot of cases what the goal is for. Thank you, Lodewijk. So what is the test for business rescue? And this is very, very important, because a lot of guys, they don't really see the test as that important. The test is that you need to go into business rescue before trouble hits. So before that, you see in 6 months' time, if you can foresee that you're not going to pay any creditors in 6 months' time, then you're commercially insolvent. That's the best time of going into business rescue, restructuring your affairs and making a plan. Or if you see that your company is going to be insolvent within 6 months, that is also the best time to go into business rescue. The most important part of going to business rescue, and this is very, very important, there's a lot of guys that don't take the last point into consideration, is that there need to be a plan. You need to have a plan of trading out of business rescue. So what is the plan that you need to pitch for your creditors into voting for your plan? A lot of people with their businesses, they try to go into business rescue when it's too late, when they're already insolvent or they're already cash stripped. So they've got no assets, they've got no cash, they've got no margins or even a market out there. So if you want to enter business rescue at such a late stage, it's not viable, and therefore I would recommend liquidation, unfortunately. Thank you, Lodewijk.
Julian, sorry to interrupt here, but just a question in my mind. So you're saying that's the ideal time would be 6 months, but any time before liquidation would still be a possibility?
Yes, sorry. For sure, any time before liquidation, if you've got a plan, if there's a plan of trading out of certain circumstances. For example, you need 3 to 4 months time because there's a tender coming, or you are sure of a contract that's coming that can trade you out of insolvent circumstances. That is ideal position also to go into business rescue for. If you need time to put your affairs in order, ideal circumstances, any time before of your insolvent state.
And Julian, last question on this slide is, of course, this rescue plan. That is, of course, exactly what you do. I mean, I don't need to write my rescue plan. That's your job.
Yes. So the rescue plan and the negotiations with the creditors, that goes hand on hand. That is the business rescue practitioner's job. The rescue plan and the plan that needs to be implemented will be built between the business rescue practitioner and the directors of the company, shareholders, and affected parties. It's not the business rescue practitioners' responsibilities to set a business rescue plan going forward. Sorry, the idea of trading out of insolvent circumstances. But writing the plan, setting the plan, that's all the business rescue practitioners' responsibilities.
Thank you.
Okay. So a lot of factors that I look at, and this is not the end of all points that to consider if you want to go into business rescue, but are you cash strapped? Do you have any cash going on forward? If there's no cash in the company, how are you able to buy new stock and trading with it? Demand for your product. If there's no more demand as well as with your market, there's no market, there's no point of going into business rescue. Other considerations is your margins of your product. Don't we need to have a look at your margins and renegotiate with your suppliers in boosting your margins? Your general capacity of your company. Should we not look at getting another company involved and expanding the capacity and the volumes that we can push through the company? What's your advantages in the marketplace? Is there actually an advantage? Most business owners don't really see their own faults and don't see that they've got no advantage in the market. And therefore, it's also advantageous for a business rescue practitioner to come in and have an independent point of view. Stock levels. Do you have any stock that you can see as an asset in driving yourself out of business rescue? What is your market share? Do you have actually a market share, or is there a competitor that came in and undercut your prices completely? And then lastly is renegotiating creditors' payment plan. That's extremely important, as they need to give you just a bit of edge and assistance into trading again on solvent positions. Thank you, Ludovic. Now, this is most probably the most important slide of it all. Everybody wants to know, what does it cost for business rescue? So a junior business rescue practitioner they're allowed to ask 1,250 Rand per hour, an expert 1,500 Rand an hour, and 2,000 Rand an hour for a senior practitioner. This is set out by the Companies Act, and the practitioners aren't allowed to ask anything more of that. They're also entitled to any reimbursements of expenses they incurred during the business rescue. In saying this, you can negotiate with the business rescue practitioner. There's a lot of guys that does it for a fixed fee per month, or they do it on now the word just lost me there. They do it on a contingency fee basis, or they do it on a succession fee plan. It is not the end and all of a cost for business rescue. I would urge you to renegotiate with the business rescue practitioner and make sure that it's viable for the company going in as well as for the business rescue practitioner, his duties, his responsibilities, and his time at the end of the day. Thank you, Ludovic.
Julian, cost is always a sensitive subject. So are you saying that people can interact with you at the start and then negotiate a price with you? And if it works, then the parties can continue on a monthly basis?
Yes. So my what I try to do is sit with the directors of the company and see what works for both of us, and make it a fixed fee per month. That helps with budgeting purposes for myself and for the client, as well as I feel it gives more credibility to the business rescue practitioner, as he's not working per hour. So it's a fixed fee. At the end of the day, if he works 400 hours or 40 hours, he will get paid the same. So it's much more credibility, and I would suggest a business rescue practitioner going that route in in allowing the company a chance of succeeding at the end of the day. Okay, so if you think that you might fit the criteria, if you've got a client that would consider business rescue process, and this was all done on a very up level detail of business rescue, please contact me and we can discuss the certain circumstances of your business in more detail, and then we can see if it's viable for you or not. Thank you, Lodewijk.
Thank you very much, Julian. That was very informative. I will be honest with you that I really thought that business rescue practitioners would kind of be the only people that would benefit from a business rescue. But it's good to hear that there are business rescue practitioners that look to save companies. I'm going to open the floor now to questions. So please just unmute yourself. I know for a fact that Bernice and Mike had a question or two. So if you wouldn't mind opening the floor, should I unmute you, or can you see that mute button? I'll quickly unmute them. Mike and Bernice, and unmute. Thank you, Bernice. You're on. Oops, no.
On.
Just give me a moment.
Unmute. Can you hear me, Julia?
We can hear.
Yes, yes.
Okay. How would one assess how many hours and the package going forward? Would we have a preliminary meeting? And then you would advise us on how many hours this would take?
So on that, for myself, with going through the numbers, the amount of contracts, the creditors that there are, the assets and the plan, if once you pitch a plan in saying what you want to achieve through the business rescue, a business rescue practitioner knows what's lying ahead and what he can work for and not work for. So it's all on the, I would say, the gut feel and the professionalism of the business rescue practitioner.
Because the challenge is, we're dealing with cash-strapped businesses in the first place. So it's to ensure that there's enough to go around in the plan and the execution going forward.
Yes.
To be able to pay a business rescuer. And when you speak of a business rescuer, I presume you're speaking about yourself.
Yes, I'm speaking of myself, and there is other business rescue practitioners that's got the same mindset as myself.
Yes, yes. And then just excuse my ignorance, but what's a contingency plan in your view?
So a contingency plan is, if it's very much the same as a succession plan. Once the business rescue plan has been implemented and it's successful, and it's at a stage where the business rescue practitioner can take it out of business rescue into the normal business again, then he can also negotiate a succession plan in stating that if this happens, he will receive 2% of revenue, 1% of asset value, or whatever the case might be.
Okay. Anything from your side?
Thank you.
Yeah, not anything from me.
I don't have any typed questions, so I'm going to open the floor again. Anybody that would like to ask a question?
I have a question. I have two questions. One is, in your experience, how much of business rescue ends up in liquidation?
So the official stats are about 9% is successful in business rescue, and that is where the business will be taken out into normal business again. But take into consideration that's all of those stats and figures. It's not purely going back to a solvent state again. As mentioned, a lot of guys use it for alternative vehicles, better return for creditors than in liquidation, or the creditors want faster money, or they want to be, it's for many vehicles it can be used. So in that case, then afterwards the company gets liquidated, and that will also form part of the 91% that's unsuccessful, but for that purposes.
Okay, I have another question if you don't mind. Can you go into business rescue more than once or more than twice, or how much times can you do it?
So business rescue, once you've applied for business rescue and it is set aside, or you're not successful, as I can say that in the first try, you need to wait 3 months until you can apply for business rescue again, and that is according to the Companies Act. Sorry, does that answer your question, Nico?
Yes, yes it does. Thank you very much.
Lodewijk,
Please.
Julian, thank you very much for the information. I think that one of the main things that one has to remember with business rescues is that when you if you wait up to the time that you are really feeling the sweat of the distress, you're most likely going to end up in an unsuccessful rescue. To answer Nico's question from that point of view, if you wait too long, you're going to have problems. So rather, when you see the orange light for the traffic light, if you see the orange light, you need to start making inquiries and plans in terms of going into rescue faster, because that will increase the success rate of the rescue. Another thing as well is the successful implementation of a business rescue plan are also contingent upon certain factors. That tender that you're talking about, or that big contract that you are expecting. And when that thing doesn't come off, the business rescue practitioners most likely do not have another choice as to go into liquidation. So one has to take into account a lot of different factors in order to project a successful implementation of the business rescue plan. But I think the main factor causing the results being so low in terms of the actual getting back into normal business is the fact that the companies, or the directors of companies, mostly because of pride, wait too long before they actually make use of the vehicles. Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you, Nick, for that. And I agree that most of the companies, 80 to 90% of companies, wait too long before they use the vehicle of business rescue. And then a business owner is looking for, if I might say, a miracle happening, but it's actually too late. And then you need to liquidate. Thank you, Nick, for the comments. Appreciate it.
Julian, can I ask a question?
Yes, Lloyd.
Fantastic. Julian, we received instructions from a client to proceed with legal action against the company for monies due and owing. And we received the information that the company has applied for business rescue. So obviously the moratorium now applies. Should they be successful in their business rescue application? Well, our client was not a respondent on the papers. And should they now be successful in the business rescue application? Is it just a procedure that we have to approach the business rescue practitioner and inform him of our claim against the company? How do I go about that to actually form part of the whole proceeding, so that our client, who's the creditor, can have a possibility of actually obtaining their money?
Sorry, it's just want to know the facts around everything. So was it placed through a court order or by board resolution that the company went into business rescue?
Well, they're now applying for the court order.
For court order.
Okay. The matter is in court now in a week or so.
Okay. And so just stating your question, you want to know if you can go for legal action, or should you just form part of the credit of bodies?
Yeah, well, we don't want to form part of the application as so, because there has been a application of an intervening party as well, and our approach is to leave it in the hands of the court, whether they're going to grant the business rescue proceedings or they're going to dismiss it and then obviously instruct the company to go under liquidation. But should they actually then grant the order that the business rescue practitioner can take control of the company? Now, I just want to know, how do we form part of, I mean, we're not the only creditor in the whole, can I say, or in the company's, can I say, portfolio, whatever the case may be. I just want to know, yeah, do I approach the business rescue practitioner directly and tell him after the order has been granted that, look, here we are, we've got a claim, can we discuss it and formally, maybe if things turn around, form a settlement agreement?
Okay, so the next step for you would be to wait. It's a company's responsibility to inform all affected parties within 5 days after they've gone into business rescue that they are in business rescue. 5 days after the business rescues, the company's in business rescue, a business rescue practitioner will be appointed and he will drive the administration process going forward. So if you are a creditor of that company, you will be informed via the company that they've gone into business rescue.
Okay, perfect. So they will approach us?
Yes, they will approach all creditors in stating that they are in business rescue.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Julian.
Julian, I've got a question on that.
Thanks for the question.
So I don't understand the difference between by board resolution or by court, but let's say that you are under business rescue. Are all your creditors in that pool? No creditor can jump the gun and come after you. It's a wait and see scenario, automatically.
It's automatically. A creditor can approach the business rescue practitioner and ask his leave to go to court and to have a court order against the company. But it's very unlikely due to it's the business rescue practitioner to see that a company it's his responsibility to have the company back to solvent state again. And once again, very unlikely it's going to happen if the whole time you need to fight legal court battles and making sure that on the legal side he's covered while he's attending to the company in getting to a solvent state again. That's the reason for the moratorium being placed over the company during business rescue proceedings.
Julian, I'm just looking at many of the guests that we've got on here, and it is clear that their businesses are in distress because of lockdown. They were not allowed to trade fully. They're still not allowed to trade fully. So we're not waiting for a huge tender or a miracle. We're just waiting for normal business to continue. So you would be able to take your books, let's say a year back, or your turnover 2 years back and say, once we're in level 1 or out of the COVID-19 lockdown scenario, I should be back to that position. So that wouldn't be a tender or a miracle. That is just, the economy recovering. I know it's a unique scenario, but that does make sense to you.
It does make sense to me. And that is actually a difficult one, as what is the purpose then of going into business rescue as there's no real plan in going forward? As I said, that business rescue can also be used for different types of vehicles. And one of them is to protecting the company. So if there's creditors that's really aggressive against the company, if a company feels pressure from creditors and they feel that it's going to be best served by appointing a business rescue practitioner and an objective person having the negotiations with the creditor, then by all means, I think it will play off with gold with the company at the end of the day.
Julian, how does business rescue affect your labor force? What happens to employees that you've employed in a business rescue scenario?
So, Amy, would you please ask again?
I just want to know what happens to your employees when your company goes into business rescue.
So the employees, it's all part of the plan? What is a plan with the company? Maybe there is some employees that needs to that you need to lay off. It is most of the plan is to save jobs. That is one of the main focuses of Business Rescue, and it's hard to say, but if you need to lay off 1 or 2 employees to save the bigger body of employees, then that is the best way of going through the business rescue. But not all business rescues need to dispose of their employees purely to save money. There's other ways of going through it as well.
Lodewijk, just another side comment on the question Lloyd asked. Obviously, you are following the court case. So if you do not get any notification from the company or the business rescue practitioner of the business rescue practitioner's appointment, there's nothing holding you back to actually contact the business rescue practitioner and saying, listen, yes, we do have a valid claim against the company. I think a lot of times, depending on the structure of the business and how complex the structure has been set up, some creditors do fall into the cracks, and they do not get the notices because of contact details, of references, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes also it happens that the creditor already sold the book to a collection agency. So you are sending a notice to the creditor, but they do not pass it on to the guy that bought the book. Then it's maybe best to just, when you follow it up and the court order has been given and the practitioner has been appointed, you are welcome, I think, to contact them directly. Should you have some concerns that they won't be able to contact you because you're not maybe one of the high-level creditors of the company.
Okay.
Yes.
Guys, thank you very much. This session was recorded. So if you would like a copy of this recording or would like to re-look at it, please do. If you have any questions that you'd like to address to Julian, please address it to us. We'll forward it on to him. If you've got any labor queries in regards to downsizing your workforce, that would be us. So thank you very much, Julian. Again, it was a privilege to have you here and very, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Lodewijk. Thank you for all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for the cheers, guys.
Dankie Lodewijk, dankie Julian.
Dankie allemaal. Goed gaan.